All right, guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for tuning to yet another episode of the Sports Muse podcast. As you can see, I'm joined by a few folks here. I normally break down some MMA cards with is James Nutter. James, how you doing?
Excellent. Couldn't be much better.
Well, we'll take it, I guess. Ross, go ahead and introduce yourself and what's your plugging?
What's up, guys? Thank you once again to Kevin James for allowing us to be on the show. We come from me and Jalen come for the Fourth and Long podcast. We're all sports. We do a lot of football, a lot of MMA as well. And we just reach out over YouTube, right? And then we just got in contact and figured, hey, let's shoot the shoot on some MMA stuff. So we're here. We're ready to rock and roll.
Hell yeah.
Sure. And then, we have Jalen, his co-host. So there we go. Okay, So first things first, man. Let's talk about this card we got going on Saturday. This kind of snuck up on me, to be honest. I didn't realize until early this week that this card was this weekend. So it's ESPN or UFC on ESPN 9, Woodley versus Burns. I'm actually really excited about this main event. I feel like it's one of those main events that's kind of a flip of the coin. I don't really feel 100% one way or another. So I'm kind of curious to hear which your guys' takes are. So let's go ahead and just start there at the main event. Ross, what do you think?
Well, this one is a little tricky because, of course, this is Woodley's first fight in 16 months. His last fight was against Kamaru Usman, where he lost his strap. We haven't seen him since. So it's hard. It's always hard to gauge these guys when they've had this long of a layoff, But Woodley, of course, is a guy that he'll go out with. He has a mean right hand, and he has some good wrestling. And he'll try to control the fight with that, try to freeze the fighters with the threat of that bomb and the wrestling if they take it to the mat. But a guy like Burns, he just got on the map after his impressive win over Gunnar Nelson. That finish over Maia really boosted him as well. But he's a guy with a great striking game, but also he proved in the Maia fight that he does have a ground game. So this is going to be a very interesting kind of conflict of styles. I'm really interested to see how it meshes. I think it's going to be an ugly scrap with the winner not winning, but more surviving.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Jalen, what do you think? All right, James, what do you think?
I don't know. This is interesting. I think the big question is more about Tyron Woodley. How hard has he been training over the last 16 months? The last time we saw him wasn't a great night out. He admits that, and he said he had to accept that defeat. But I think he's the X factor. I think Gilbert Burns is excellent. Really, really high on him. However, I think when Tyron Woodley's on, and Tyron Woodley's the best Tyron Woodley, he's one of the best of all time in the welterweight division. So I think the questions rely largely on Woodley and what he can do to get it done. I think Dan Hooker knocked out Gilbert Burns. I think Dan Hooker's obviously a very skilled striker. I think Woodley is just as technical and has a lot more power. So I think that's a concern. And Burns tends to drop his hands quite a bit, especially whenever he starts getting fatigued, I noticed. So I feel like if Woodley does control the pace, kind of like what Ross said, I think it's going to be lights out for Burns. I actually really hope Woodley does well. I'm not a huge fan of him per se, but I feel like the Usman fight, I'm hoping was just a one-off. I hope that was a blip on the radar and that he can get back to greatness. But he is on the wrong side of 30, so I don't know. There's a big question mark over Woodley. I think Burns is going to be great, and he's going to be a factor for a long time. If Woodley goes out there and loses this, what's left for him? So very interesting.
And that's exactly it. Is I agree with you. I'm not a huge Tyron Woodley fan, but exactly, man. If he does drop this fight, I just don't really see the point of him coming back out because that puts him a few fights back from another title shot, and he's 38 years old. Do we really want to see him trying to work his way back up the ladder? Does he really want to work his way back up the ladder? This is interesting, man, because I saw some people were being like, Woodley's clearly a slow-paced fighter, okay? He's a giant man who's trying to conserve his energy for a quick burst. So some people are saying he's going to try to, press Burns up against the cage and grind out a few rounds. I don't necessarily see it that way because one, that's not really Woodley's style. And two, I mean, think about the last time we've seen a great wrestler try to press Burns up against the cage. That was Colby Covington, and he got his night ended with a guillotine choke. So I don't think that's the best way to victory. But like James said, Burns has been hurt before. They both like to throw just stupid bombs over the top. So I don't know, man. Like this is one of those things where, I'd be kind of curious, because I think Woodley's underrated on the ground. If he tries to use his wrestling a little bit, if he gets like really pushed back and, he's pressured, if he tries to use that wrestling, because Burns is one of the best in the world, BJJ practitioner. So I really don't know, man. They're kind of in a weird way similar. Clearly Woodley has the wrestling edge, hands down. Burns probably has the jiu-jitsu edge. Woodley probably has the power edge. Technically, neither guy are like known to be super technical strikers, because they're kind of more so like pot shots. But like Woodley's just better at it because he was a champion. But Burns is coming to his own at 70, so I'm honestly not exactly sure how this plays out, and I'm actually really curious. But I do agree with Ross, man. This could be ugly. This could be one of those things where they're kind of standing about a foot apart, staring at each other, and fainting a little bit, but very little's thrown. So. I'm not exactly sure. Jalen, you with us right now, man? Let's see.
Yeah, I'm back. I had muted myself and didn't notice it. For me, it was I kind of see this as kind of it's going to be a brawl. It kind of comes down to what way is Woodley going to come at this fight? Is he going to try to come in and wrestle? Is he going to come in and try to strike? I think his best chance at winning this is wrestling it. I think striking, he's going to probably get caught. But I think he's going to try to prove himself and prove that he can go the distance. So I definitely see. I think Burns is going to come on top of this, and I think, like you guys said, the Woodley, what is next for him if he loses this fight? But I don't know if I can see him winning this fight with the mindset I think he's going to come into this fight with.
Yeah, this is that kind of that make or break point of everyone's career where it's like. I feel like you have to think if you're Woodley, like if you're Tyron Woodley, you have to be thinking like, do I really want to continue to do this? I've made a few dollars. He can speak well. I think he has a job waiting for him, on Fox or, well, not Fox anymore, but ESPN now, when he's done, so are we going to see the same Tyron Woodley? And are we going to see the same Tyron Woodley? Because he's 38 now, you know what I mean? Not a young guy, wrestler all of his life. We see that grinds you down. I'm honestly not sure, Give me how you think the fight's going to play out and your prediction for how this fight's going to go, Ross.
Okay. So there's not going to be a finish. I don't think. It's like I said, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be a scrap. It's going to be a fight where if Woodley's going to win this one, but it's going to be one where he does grind out like what James was talking about. It's going to be against the cage, and he's going to take him to the ground. And he's going to grind out these. He's not going to stay in striking range of Burns because that's how he loses. That's how he's going to lose this fight. So it's going to be ugly, like I said. Woodley by unanimous decision after 5 rounds of fighting.
Okay. Jalen, what do you think?
I think I'm gonna have to go with Burns here, just because I hope Woodley wins. In my heart, I hope Woodley wins. But just looking at the fight and looking at that last fight, and then age and everything come into play, I think this gets pushed to maybe late third, maybe early fourth, and I think Burns ends up finishing him either by unanswered strikes or just a knockout, TKO, something like that. I just think Woodley's going to try to do too much to redeem himself. He's going to get caught, and he's going to tire out, and I think he's going to go out in late third, early fourth.
Okay. James, what are you thinking?
One thing that I thought was really interesting pre-fight is that Woodley said that he wanted this 5 rounds, right? And it is 5 rounds, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Like, that's official. Yeah, so the fact that he wanted that tells me one of two things. Either, kind of like what Jalen said, he wants to prove himself, wants to go 5, or he is going to come out swinging, and it's all just mind games, right? I tend to lean with the first option because we pretty much know what we're going to get when we see Woodley step into the octagon. I think we're underselling him a little bit in the striking game because let's not forget 2 fights ago. I mean, last fight did not go well, but 2 fights ago, he stood toe to toe with a much larger man in Darren Till, who is a much more accomplished striker, dropped him, and then finished him on the ground.
Sure.
Prior to that, he was lighting Darren Till up pretty well. I mean, he controlled the octagon. There's one thing Woodley's been really good at through his entire career. There's two things. It would be the fact that he is able to cut off the cage or lure you into the part of the cage where he wants you. He's very good. He's a octagon, tactician, I guess you would call it. And the second thing is he has goddamn ridiculous power.
Yeah.
So whether he has cardio or not, the way Tyron Woodley, in my opinion, wins this fight, or the way I guess I can see him that I know that isn't a factor, whether he's been training a lot for the last 6 months. The one thing I still know is that there's Armageddon in his right hand.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Woodley wins this fight because I want to hope that it's not over for him, and I'm going to take it by a third-round knockout. I do think he's going to come out a little slower. It's just kind of his pacing and his styling. I see Burns getting maybe frustrated. I don't think Burns will engage him in the takedown. So I see Burns, aggressing later in the fight when he's getting a little frustrated or maybe a little flustered. The big question with that would be obviously Woodley's conditioning, which who really knows. So that third round knockout by Woodley, because I know he's got the right hand.
So, part of me wants to say Woodley's going to come out, kind of show why he's been the guy for a while. And he's going to spark him quick, or he's going to touch him up quick and often. And Burns is going to be like, oh, okay, I feel it. Like, okay. And he's going to play a real subtle game. And it's going to be kind of that long drawn out thing. But then part of me thinks like, what if this is kind of like Robbie Lawler versus Woodley, but now Woodley's on the wrong end, where you have someone that drops some bombs, he comes out quick, and because Gilbert Burns does not care, he charges forward because he goes, "Take me down, I dare you," because then you're going to play in my world. Okay, so he's going to go blazing. I kind of feel like this is going to be like a first round finish. Someone's going to get either like just blasted, or someone's going to get clipped, and they both can, wrap something up and tap out the other guy if they hurt him bad enough. But I just have a feeling like with Burns is going to play into what most people don't do with Woodley. I think he's going to dive in there and just try to be chaotic, and we'll kind of see how it goes, man. But I like I said, I could also see him getting touched a little bit before he can really start going guns a-blazing. And then it's a completely different fight that plays right into Woodley's hand. Nobody in the UFC we've ever seen has played that game as well as Tyron Woodley, where he goes, listen, I don't have the energy to go 5 rounds like a Nate Diaz hard. Okay. He goes, I had this limited amount of energy, but I promise you this, if you jump into here, I am going to hurt you and hurt you bad. I mean, nobody has really answered the riddle of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm not even counting Anthony Pettis. That was a lucky punch. He was absolutely murdering Anthony Pettis until Anthony Pettis landed that one punch that just knocked him silly. But nobody has answered that riddle. Even Masvidal couldn't answer that riddle of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And Wonderboy was so scared to even point fight with him that the few times he did come in 10 rounds, just that as soon as it clips you, man, he's so strong. So, like I said, I'm going to say, upset alert. I'm going to go Gilbert Burns first round KO.
I'm going to counter that.
Okay.
I think this has a huge potential to be a stinker of a fight.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
I actually think it does, because let's be fair. And I'm not hating on him because, it's the W, right? Woodley, when he feels in danger, is not afraid to coast to the victory, right? And Burns has been such an active fighter and such an exciting fighter. He's finished so many fights. I think it's like well over 60%, maybe 70% finish rate for him. But his last 3 out of 5 have been by decision. So is Gilbert Burns now going, or is it the high level of competition where he can't find those finishes? That happens all the time. I'm just saying, there's chances I'm going to fall asleep. I'm just saying, there's a chance.
Man, if you don't fall asleep before this fight, you're going to fall asleep during the main event, huh?
Yeah.
The other thing I will say that's kind of, I'm sure, playing in both guys' head is that 70-pound division is pretty stacked, and there's a lot of guys there wanting to eat. And if you're Woodley, you're going, Dana White doesn't like you. Okay, and that's obvious. And you're not a fan favorite as far as entertaining fights. So you need something. You need something special to get you back into that title picture. So what if he comes out and we see a little bit of a kind of more desperate Woodley? And how does Burns respond to that? I don't know if it will happen, but if I'm looking at that division, like right now, it could go to 4 different guys before the winner of this fight. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure how that plays out.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest takeaways from this fight is Woodley. Of course, we all agree on the fact that Woodley needs to win this fight. If Burns loses this fight, he might drop to 7, maybe, but he's ultimately not going to be that affected by this. He still has years left in that division, of course. But if we see Woodley lose this fight, especially if we see, like some of you guys predicting a knockout to Woodley, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Woodley retire on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Totally
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that.
And if not retired, it'll be the classic UFC veteran switches weight classes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Could be.
I'd
Or it
love
could
to
be
see
one of
that
the
though. You
Yeah,
want
no,
to see Woodley up
Hey.
at 180?
Yeah. Hey, seriously though, that's a good point, because you know what? A guy that everyone made fun of to do that was Robert Whittaker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Ooh.
Calvin Gastelum. I'm telling you, I think Woodley's gas tank would be better at 185, and he would still carry that fuck you power. I think I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be down.
We've seen it at 170, but it'd be a whole different fight if we see Woodley until at 85.
Yeah,
It would be
absolutely.
the same
It
thing.
just
Ooh.
scares me. Woodley's like what, 5'9", 5'10"?
He's 5'9". He's 5'9".
He's already short for 70. Like he's gonna be
So
like
is
a
Gaslam.
short. Yeah, you're right.
Gaslam
You're
has
right.
really
I
short
don't-
arms.
Now, I will say, I think Woodley maybe a little undervalued in his skill, but I do think that Woodley has more athleticism and power and strength to kind of cheat around that a little bit. But
I think Woodley is a better technical, slightly less explosive, like Yoel Romero. Where it's, you know what I mean? He has that ability to just, you're watching the fight, you turn around and get a drink, and then the fight's over. He has that kind of power. But he's a little bit more technical, a little bit smarter about how he uses it. Yoel Romero is a little bit more in your face. Like, I'm going to stand here for 5 minutes with my arms above my head. So just to lose a round so I can have more energy for the next 4. So, we'll kind of see. Now, Ross, you were talking about off air. You were talking about another fight on this card you were excited about. What is that?
I'm actually really looking forward to seeing the performance from Spike Carlisle. He is this young up-and-comer, call him the Alpha Ginger. So anyone with that kind of name, I think you have to pay attention to them. But he's 27 years old. He's 9-1 now. First round stoppage over last in February. He's he stung the contender with and got him bad, and he's making some moves. He has a lot of upside, I think, and the power. He's a technical guy, and he's exciting to watch. And so he's lower. I think they're on the 3rd. He's like on the 3rd, right there in the middle of the main card. And I think he's just a guy to keep your eye on now, because he's going to be doing big things in a year or 2. Maybe top 5.
I can see that. No, I can definitely see that.
he looks like he's in great shape.
He looks good. He's great for a featherweight too.
Yeah.
And he's
sure.
he's an alpha male guy, and so in that his size, his frame fits that mold perfectly to what we see. So I feel like that's kind of the best place for him to be at, even though some people aren't alpha male fans, and I kind of like Team Alpha Male. I feel like we're now trying.
No, we're all alpha male fans over here.
Jalen, is there any other fights that you're excited about, or kind of just I'm excited to watch some sports?
To be honest, I'm just a big fight fan. Honestly, though, this fight card is slightly underwhelming. I mean, obviously, there's going to be it's probably going to be a exciting card just because people are fighting. There's always a chance of knockouts, some crazy submission we haven't seen. I'm still hoping for that first banana split in the UFC. I'm waiting for that. But I always give it a fighter's chance to be an exciting show. But just the names on it wise, it just doesn't seem. It's kind of underwhelming. But a fight's a fight, so that's what I'm excited to see.
I'm with you on that. James, anything?
I too am kind of excited to see what Spike Carlisle can do. Also, that name is phenomenal. Just want to put it out there. Yeah, you know,
his real name or his nickname or both.
both. Both. He's the complete package. You know, and at least there's a heavyweight bout in the semi-main. You know, someone's going to die in that one, so that'll be fun.
Well, the fighter almost died when he got shot in the chest.
Yeah. Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Well, you guys don't know?
Yeah.
Inform me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Grigory Ivanov has been shot in the chest. That's why he has a little hole there.
Oh,
And this went back to Derek. Derek Lewis called this, quote, a booty hole on his chest.
Yep.
Derek
Second
Lewis.
booty hole. That's what he
Yeah.
was calling it.
he's a
There you
national
go.
treasure. National treasure. Well, I'm now infinitely more excited for that fight. And I think the Mackenzie Dern fight will be interesting to see where she's at. You know, it's always nice to get a checkup to see where someone that's returning from a little bit of a longer layoff is. It was disappointing to see. What was the gentleman? He fought 2 weeks ago and had a very good outing. I can't remember his name now.
Holland?
Yes, he got injured. I was actually really looking forward to
Sure.
seeing, you know,
Shoulder
how that
injury, right?
happens. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I think these are the cards where you find a new person to cheer for, right? Like
Sure.
you find a new. I remember
Mhm.
Kevin back in the day when John Jones' first fight, and he was just throwing WWE moves everywhere and German suplexing folks, and it was on the undercard. And me and Kevin were like, "Well, here we go." Now he did turn out to not be such a hero, but you know, entertaining fighter, and it was cool seeing those beginning signs of like, oh, there's something here. Like there's some substance to this guy that no one else has. And I think these are the kind of cards. They're usually always great because these guys are trying to make a name for themselves and ladies. And I think this is where you find those dark horses. So I'm kind of with you, Jalen. I don't think it's a stacked card, but it'll definitely obviously be entertaining because let's be honest, we don't have anything else to do. No other sports are really on.
Nothing.
And let's find some new fan favorites. Why not?
I like
Nah.
that. I love that mentality.
Yeah, I'm completely with it as far as like, dude, yeah, you don't have anything else to do. I've watched Netflix for the past like 8 weeks straight. So like maybe I can switch it up a little bit and watch a little bit of fights, try to find a new person that I'm into.
Kevin, you should read a book.
What's
Uh,
reading?
Oh,
Nerd.
nice.
A great place to see great book reviews would be the Fantasy Nut. I'm starting an infomercial for my channel. That's all.
I respect the hustle.
The hardcore plug there.
Yeah. I was dedicated.
The only thing we need to read is rankings and previews.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So no, I agree with what you guys are saying as far as you know, Mackenzie Dern is. I'm kind of curious where she's at. Spike, same thing. 250 actually shaped up a lot better than like when me and James talked a few weeks ago. 250 looked like quite possibly the worst card I've ever seen, and it's actually started to shape up a little bit. So you know, I'm excited to, you know, get into the flow of fights, and then, you know, the following week we got 250. But no, definitely gonna check it out, and I appreciate anybody who's checking out our show. Make sure you click the like, subscribe button for our content. I just had Gray Maynard on last week, so definitely check it out. Ross, go ahead and plug your stuff.
Sure. So, website, www.thefourthandlong.com. You can find everything there, all of our interviews, videos, full podcasts, where to find us and everything. We got Twitter at Fourth Long Radio, Instagram at Fourth Long Radio, all that fun stuff from Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can just check out the most recent interview. We interviewed Team Alpha Male's head striking coach, Joey Rodriguez. That was a fun one.
Very
So
cool.
you guys should probably check that one out. But thank you, Kevin and James. I appreciate the opportunity to do a little cross promote stuff, right?
There you go,
Never
there
going
you
to see Bellator and UFC, but we can see sports news and Fourth and Long.
This is the next best thing. Next best thing right here.
go. James, go ahead.
You know, in these times of uncertainty, the things that put me at comfort and peace of mind is to open up a good book. And as George R. R. Martin once said, a man who does not read lives one life, but a man that reads lives many. And over at the Fantasy Network, that's what we do. We read, we review, and we talk. And we're building a community there. If you're into fantasy at all, or if you're not, you should still read because it makes you smarter.
Yes, it does. I'm a big reader myself.
I really appreciate how
Eh?
you can totally change your voice. Like we can tell when you're talking and when you're plugging.
Yes. I do it a lot at the dinner table as well. I'm
Guys,
trying to get out of doing
thanks for
dishes.
tuning in the description, I put everybody's pages to their YouTube. So definitely check it out. Subscribe to all of us, help out the little guys. And we will see you guys next time. James, what should they do with that subscribe button?
They should slap that fucking subscribe button.
And that's